Hey everyone, today I'm going to rank every killer by how fun they are. For this I'll be considering both survivor and killer perspectives, and it will largely be based on my own personal preference. Here's our tiers, and let's get into it. Please no. There's very few killers I outright dislike in the game or actively find boring, and would say every killer has something to offer, and therefore this tier is more of a bit of fun. Sadago has got to be one of the least fun for both sides in my opinion, with her having a very restrictive playstyle, her condemned one, which largely consists of her not really chasing anyone and teleporting around a bunch. I find this really dull whatever side I'm playing on, but equally it's the only way to actually make her at all viable, as playing more of a hit and run style is just far too weak. She's great design-wise, but in gameplay she's got to be one of the worst. Karasu I feel a little bad putting so low as she's so new, but I do find her just quite dull whichever side I'm on. Granted, in this case I have so few matches against her to probably judge her fairly, as no one really plays her. I've just faced her a handful of times, but most of the times it just felt like the counterplay was pretty lacking. Playing as her, she feels clunky and awkward and just doesn't have the flow and snappiness that so many other movement-based killers do, so she's quite low for me. Hag is also very low for me as a character that feels wildly outdated and lacking in interesting mechanics nowadays. Facing her is typically either a steamroll or lots of slugging and proxy camping. In fairness though, there's not really another reliable way to play her. Playing as her feels quite punishing, and as if there's not much to be done to really win a game a lot of the time. You can do mildly fun things like Chag I guess, but this gets old pretty quickly I think. I'd rather not. Freddy is my number one rather not, and that's a perfect way to describe him I think, as he's not as boring or as bad as he used to be with his hybrid power now, but he still lacks interest. There are fun moments with him like hitting a cool fake pallet shot, but for the most part he still centers around the snares, which are just kind of Facing him I feel the same, although I have always loved the visuals of the Dreamworld and how they make the maps look different, which is a positive in my opinion. Nurse is here as for either side she either rolls or gets rolled, and there's rarely any in between. I think a truly balanced Nurse match is a ton of fun, but it's so rare to find a Nurse like that, which isn't either super good or super bad. Playing as her, 90% of games just feel way too easy to be honest, and I do find while she is unique and interesting for that, she also lacks variation in playstyle, making her just kind of overall. Clown is a character I've never really liked to face, as I find the idea of a power which slows you down and restricts movement to just not be fun, simply. It doesn't feel rewarding to outplay, and it feels more frustrating to face, I'd say. Aside maybe a few times where tactically avoiding a cloud can be kind of interesting, playing as him and it's sort of the same deal. Some chases feel way too easy, but then the wider game feels quite difficult due to lack of map control, leaving Clown around here, I think. Legion are a killer which have always been pretty universally disliked, and I can see why to be honest. Their power is largely focused on applying deep wounds, which is probably my least favourite mechanic in the entire game. There's something that feels so grueling about it from a survivor perspective, especially as so many legions seem to not want to ever chase you, but just repeatedly hit you. As the killer, I just find the gameplay kinda boring to be honest. It's fun going for 5 hit downs or trying to use their power more as a sort of anti-loop tool, but it's inconsistent and rare I'd say for these to work out consistently. Overall, another Demogorgon is a character that has fallen for me somewhat, as I do find that nowadays playing Demo especially is just nowhere near as fun as it used to be. Demo is super simple, but does lack a lot of depth to be honest, and also fun build variation or playstyles, just being a dog with a big lunge. It's fun every now and then, and especially for some chill games, but it is a bit too simplistic. Facing a Demo I would say is a lot more fun and tends to provide good matches, with the power being pretty fun to play around. Twins are another case where it's a bit hard to judge playing against them because it happens so rarely. However, I do find in the rare cases where I do encounter a Twins player, they pretty much always are slugging and tunneling and all the bad words. It's a very small pool of players though. Playing as them I do find more compelling and tend to enjoy more for the most part. Victor is a really fun character to use with his long leap, and I do really enjoy the interplay of the two twins. Trickster I find can be pretty hit or miss as well. He's a character whose power is very map dependent, and I do think this really heavily affects how much fun you have when playing as him. There are loads of maps where his power just isn't that effective, and it really works against you, like his own map, coincidentally. All of the tool walls just make it slightly miserable. To face him, I think it's kind of the reverse, where the maps with lots of high walls and loops actually make him fun to face because it's more viable or feasible to avoid his blade throws. Yet on a very open map you just get rolled. It feels like two extremes with Trickster, and I think that's why overall he's just not the most fun. Skull Merchant is in a weird spot too, as she's still super weak, and whilst her power is fairer nowadays, it does lack in interest in my opinion. I find it kind of awkward to get value from, and most merchants I do face don't seem to focus on using the power with much thought. Then again, I don't either really, so hey, contributing to the problem. I wouldn't say I dislike her though on either side, but generally when I play or face her, it's just sort of an alright sort of game. It's not completely compelling, but also isn't super miserable. Xenomorph has always been a character I'm not the biggest fan of, as I just think its tail attack especially is just way too OP in so many situations, and gets hits that just feel kinda BS. I feel this way for both sides of the game too, whether I'm playing as Xeno or facing Xeno, I tend to express that many hits feel unfair regardless of the side. I do think Xeno equally has cool mechanics though and elements to them, like the flame turrets, and also the tunnel system, especially when playing as Xeno. Zooming around in the tunnels is very fun. Springtrap, interestingly, is fairly low for me, as I find the core axe mechanic just a bit too simple and dull. The main reason I find Springtrap not so fun though is because the whole security door mechanic just feels really pointless in most games, aside maybe occasionally using them as map traversal as Springtrap. For survivors, there's literally no reason to interact with them, especially the cameras, which just feel like more of a detriment. It's a shame too, as they're probably the coolest part of his kit, whereas the axe I think is a bit dull and simple, and doesn't have the versatility of Huntress's hatchets. Dracula is another killer that seems to be pretty well loved, but personally I'm not so big on them. I find Dracula's abilities quite boring to be honest, although I do like the visuals of them, being able to change forms. I just think each of them don't flow so well compared to a character like Vecna say. From a survivor perspective, I do enjoy him more for sure, and I tend to like playing around the abilities a bit more, so it feels a bit more engaging compared to actually using them I think. It's a 50-50 chance I have fun. Trapper is pretty 50-50 I think, with him often being a fun challenge when playing as him, but equally having games that make you not really want to ever take on that challenge again. As Survivor I find him less fun overall. He's weak for sure, but I think facing him is still largely not that engaging. Stepping into a trap that you basically can't see at all is just not fun, but I do find it fun when you have more of a back and forth of avoiding and disarming traps, and occasionally stepping into them. As default killer man, Trapper feels appropriate to put here. Spirit is a killer that's unusually high for me. I usually put her in the very bottom tier, but over the past year or so she's grown on me quite a bit, and I've started to appreciate playing as her more. I still think she's pretty boring to face as it's largely guesswork, but I do find her power quite interesting to use, especially with its focus on small cues and trying to track and cut off survivors just with sound. She does have a very unique playstyle, but she's also still super strong, and sometimes feels a bit too oppressive. Plague is a very 50-50 character by her nature I think, especially to face. Some games I'm kind of down for her and a different sort of game, but then other games it's very frustrating I find, with her often denying whole builds like healing builds, which I think is kind of silly. I don't think any character should be able to shut down whole perk types, like in Plague's case. So I don't like that aspect of her. Playing as her I would say she's more fun though, as she does have a unique projectile and playstyle in general, and being powered up with her red vomit is honestly just a lot of fun. Pyramid Head is an interesting case as I think he's quite dependent on how skillful you are with him, as most of his fun comes with his ranged attack and landing good shots. Facing him on the other hand I'd say is more consistently fun as he has lots of dynamic and interesting counterplay, like dodging his ranged attacks and the unique way you have to avoid the trails by crouching. I do think Pyramid Head's pretty stacked kit largely just makes him interesting to interact with, although it can vary for sure. Artist is another one of those rarer cases where she doesn't appear that much, and therefore it's a little hard to figure out where she should be placed. I'm inclined to say she can be pretty 50-50 though, with her power being decently map dependent. She's similar to Pyramid Head in that she can be very fun, but I think the fun does kind of rely on how good you are with her. The most annoying thing I find with using her is that she does have kinda BS counterplay, with the ability to clear the crows with her lockers. Facing her is mostly quite fun, but can be dull if she uses her crows only for anti-loop. That's the thing with her I think, is that she's fun to play as and against when she goes for long shots, and isn't so fun when she's played with more of an anti-loop playstyle. Knight can be a bit more hit or miss in my opinion, and mainly down to the guards and how interactive they can be. As a survivor it can be sometimes quite thrilling and engaging facing them, managing to survive and get back to the flag. However, there's also plenty of times where the guards do something weird or perform not quite like how they're meant to, and then my mood changes. Playing as Knight I do find more fun than I used to, as he has a lot more freedom with his guards nowadays, and I do like how each fulfill a unique role in a way. It's always satisfying to nail a nice pincer maneuver too. Singularity has waned in enjoyment a bit for me, as I find he's quite a lot easier than he used to be, and it does make the games quite a bit less tense. He feels much quicker and a lot simpler now. It feels this way from the survivor perspective too, where it can feel a bit helpless sometimes and like the only counterplay is pre-dropping, and even then often this isn't quite enough to repel him. I do still like silly Gene Man though, and I do enjoy the fun spots you can find for the biopods. Chucky is a character I really loved on release and still do for his literal new perspective on the game, being in third person. I think this always makes him fun in some way, as his gameplay is just genuinely distinct and different. The part I'm not such a fan of with Chucky is I do find his dash a bit simple and dull a lot of the time, and his stealth can feel a bit nothingy as an ability. Facing Chucky I do like quite a bit, as it's funny seeing his tiny legs trying to catch you, and the way he face plants when he gets stunned is amazing. Vecna or Henry is a character that I do like quite a bit, but can be a bit hit or miss too. I do love his whole vibe and aura, and the mechanics like World Breaker mode look so visually amazing that it's hard not to get a bit immersed and gain some enjoyment that way. I do find with his Vine attack though it can be varyingly fun for both sides. Again, it's one of those cases where it depends how well the killer's doing. As a survivor it's kind of miserable if the killer is locked in and just hits you every time, as there's not too much counterplay. On the flip side, as killer it's either a lot of fun hitting shots or really miserable repeatedly missing. I find there's little in between. I enjoy them greatly. Ghostface is kind of tough to place too, as he's so weak a lot of the time, it can be hard to find him fun when you're always getting rolled. I do think he's fun for the most part though, for the fact that he's so stealthy and so heavily leans into the stealth playstyle, which is really rare for modern DBD, with characters like Myers even not really being that stealthy anymore. Ghosty is pure stealth, and so I think he's a lot of fun still. Facing him I do enjoy a lot too, and I find him pretty consistently fun to face. Even if you get sneakily exposed, it's usually a good time and a bit of fun. Most of the time, games against Ghosty are super easy, so it's fun to have some outliers. Kaneki, I hate to say it, but he is just very fun to play as, especially. The way he can bound about and can move in such a unique way is just so much fun, attaching to various surfaces and trying to cut off survivors and stuff like that. It's hard to deny it's fun. Facing him, I do agree, is usually a different story, but I do think he's counterable in lots of instances. It just requires you to focus quite a bit and use resources well. Definitely more fun to play as though. Houndmaster is a killer I'm surprised more people don't play as she's a ton of fun in my opinion. You have a dog and basically a dash power, what's not to like? I personally find her just as fun as the other dash characters, although it's true she can be quite buggy sometimes, but is getting better all the time. Facing her I also really enjoy, to be honest. I never have a bad time. The dog is fun to play around and interact with in my opinion, and has plenty of counterplay options that feel quite fair, so yeah, I like her quite a lot. Unknown is probably my worst character in the game to play as, with my win rate being as low as like 40% or something. But regardless, I really enjoy Unknown. The UVX is such an interesting power with how it moves and bounces, and I also just love the creepy immersion with Unknown and all of its weird voice lines. I also love this as a survivor too, and feel there's plenty of counterplay for this character that feels very engaging. Again, its voice lines are fun to face too, its whole vibe in the trial is amazing. Wesker is overall still up there for fun for me, as he still consistently delivers with his silliness and voice lines. The main gripe I have with him nowadays, mainly when playing as him, is that there's just so many loops that feel unfriendly for his power, and cause him to bounce weirdly or just not quite be able to get around certain things, which is very frustrating. Overall though, he's still a fun little guy. Doctor is maybe one of my favourite killers to face honestly, as I find the whole madness mechanic quite enjoyable to be on the receiving end of, with all of its strange effects on gameplay and the way it genuinely creates quite a bit of fear and tension, to be honest. I also think Doctor is fairly balanced, and I think his shocks are quite fun to face and measure the timing of. I do like playing Doctor quite a bit less, as I find him a little boring, but I think it's a similar deal where you can play into madness and make lots of fun moments. It's also really satisfying hitting a nice window or pallet block. Wraith is nice, simple fun for both sides, I think. Wraith games are rarely bad in my opinion, even when a Wraith is like tunneling you. Generally they can't do that much as their power isn't that strong. Playing as Wraith I like the build variety, but also just the chill nature of the character. Billy, a bit like Unknown, is a killer I can enjoy playing even though I'm absolutely dreadful at him, as I just enjoy the speed and momentum of the character. Zooming around and then hitting overdrive is always a good time, even if I'm mostly colliding with the environment. Facing Billy is always a good time too, even if they're a good Billy. It's one of few characters honestly, where if I get hit by a really crazy chainsaw hit, I'm never going to be mad about it, I'll just be impressed. Myers is another character I think is always a good time, to be honest. He's still such a unique character even after his rework, where he has so much going for him in the way of jump scares, but also quite intense chases now with his dash ability. I do find this more fun to face now compared to his old version too, which often felt a bit too sudden and annoying when you were suddenly hit with tier 3. There's generally more of a chance at safer counterplay now. Oni has got to be one of my favourite characters to play, but is definitely slightly less fun to face. He's a lot of fun with his speedy power, but can be frustrating getting insta-downed, especially when an Oni is very good with the power. It can feel slightly helpless. On the whole though, I think Oni is fun for both sides, and especially fun to play as, managing his weakened state and balancing it with his powered up state. Deathslinger, he's a cowboy with a spear gun who reels you in. What is there possibly not to like? Sling is always a good time in my opinion. I really love playing as him, and I quite like facing him, although it can be frustrating sometimes, as the counterplay can be difficult. Pinhead honestly is quite high for me. I think he's a character that's really fun to face nowadays, especially now that most people know how to face and counter him. It used to be a bit more miserable before, when a full solo queue team just got completely rolled as no one ever did the box. I find it's quite the opposite now, so it makes the AZHYMOVS genuinely enjoyable. I also love seeing him because since he got removed his play rate has completely plummeted. I think I've seen genuinely 1 or 2 in the past year. To play as, I also enjoy him as he has such unique gameplay, and honestly it's a nice challenge. Dredge is another character that's really grown on me, and nowadays I quite enjoy its power. It's very weird, but it does have a lot of cool elements, and how can you not enjoy Nightfall on either side? The Darkened Trial making it super spooky, and giving it all a creepy atmosphere. I think Dredge is quite a fun character to face too, as there's plenty of potential for tense moments around the lockers, and counterplay with the Remnant. I love you so much. Nemesis, my boy, I love him so much, he's such a sweet man with a cute face and good teeth. I find Nemi to be really consistent fun, regardless of the side you're on. He's got a fairly simple power, but one that's fun to use and play against, with there being a reasonable counterplay for Survivor, but counterplay that equally isn't too annoying from a killer perspective. The zombies also add a fun wildcard element to gameplay, always spicing things up, even if they're broadly quite useless. Huntress is still up here for me as well. She's easily the best ranged character and has always been fun for both sides. Playing her is very chill and just a nice change of pace, then facing her is also very enjoyable with her feeling very balanced nowadays and not quite so overtuned. Bubba is another character that's really grown on me. I used to hate this guy. I find he's pretty much always fun though. Playing as him is enjoyable, and there's lots of fun moments with his sweeps where there's potential for multiple downs, but also tense moments where you need to maneuver a tight area. Facing Bubba, I find the same. I also like the counterplay with him where you're basically just trying to get him to collide into something that isn't you, using your more precise mobility to try and avoid him. I really enjoy that personally. Pig is another character I almost always enjoy, with her just being so unique, having the reverse bear traps, but also her stealth and ambush ability. I like all of them, and together they create a really unique character blend, which I really enjoy playing and enjoy facing too, honestly. I find pig trials are just so unique and always feel like they play out differently each time, depending on the pig. Blight I like a lot too. He's probably the best designed dash character, and so yep, he's fun to play, and I think even better now with his nerf down as he feels fairer as well. I've always enjoyed facing him too and trying to predict his movement, or using various objects like rocks to try and play around his dashes. I like characters like this where you don't really loop them in a normal way, you have to get a bit more creative. Vecna I think is one of the most fun and interesting killers we have in DBD, with him having such a range of abilities and also the survivors having the magical items to interact with, which makes their role against him a lot more interesting in my opinion. Having to consider all of the abilities and how they play into one another and all the different charge times is an interesting thing for both sides to consider. I think he's also fun because he's got a fun vibe with his voice lines and general aura being amazing. Alright, well that's gonna do it. I do hope you enjoyed, and let me know your thoughts as always down below. Thanks, and goodbye.